it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Now, if you have been with me for a while, you will have seen this little die set many times over. In fact, I think it might be one of the first die sets I ever got myself. So it is old. However, I want to kind of use it in some different ways and change it up a little bit. You can kind of look at your die sets and make them work for you. So this is kind of like a daisy maybe looking flower to me. So there is kind of 3 different sizes of the actual flowers, and I just cut out lots of the middle sized flower. So I'm going to use some Fossilized Amber and Wild Honey Distress Oxide inks to colour these. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the flower and I'm actually going to cut it in half because I want to make it a kind of daisy from the side, how you might be looking onto it. So the petals will all be kind of coming down the front so that we can have some different looking flowers from using all the same dyes. Next up, I've got ripe persimmon, spun sugar, and worn lipstick, and these are just 3 kind of colors I picked out. This is going to create my one normal flower, and this is just 3 different layers. Using the different colored inks definitely gives the flowers a little bit more dimension rather than just using one color. You could also just cut these out from pre-colored cardstock and then you wouldn't have to ink them yourself at all, or you could color them in with any medium at all that you have. I'm going to create a second one like this because I really like this look. For this I'm using tumbled glass, cracked pistachio, and peacock feathers, and I think for this one I end up doing more than 2 layers. I think I end up doing the 3. So as many layers as you want works for this, and I guess the more layers that you add, the more dimension that your flowers will end up having. So yeah, I cut out another one here and then added that on. Now, right at the beginning, I did show you that die set comes with that little circle there that is meant to be the center of the flowers. However, I'm going to use some mustard seed ink and cut out my own, mainly because for the ones that we're kind of going to get the side view of them, I want it to be more of an oval rather than a circle. So you can just hand cut these, and I don't even want them to be perfect. I don't want them to be a perfect oval. I didn't want to use a die for them, although you most certainly can. It's just as easy for me to cut them out by hand. Then I'm using a little bit of vintage photo, and I'm just going to add this to the centers just so they're not as bright yellow. And again, this is all about just adding a little bit of dimension and not having these die cuts look quite so plain and flat. So I've added a little bit of brown ink, and then this is how I'm going to put them together. Just a little bit of really strong glue here. This is the matte medium glue from Ranger, and I pop it into these little glue bottles myself. If you search on YouTube how to fill a glue bottle, my video should pop up first, and it's a really easy, stress-free, mess-free way of filling up those bottles. Then I am going to add a tiny little bit of foam tape to the back of my center of my flower, and then that will kind of again give it a little bit more dimension. Here's the kind of blue tones one that I'm going to do, and of course I don't think any of these are realistic. I don't know what colors they come in or what flowers you want these to be, but they can be anything, and card making is just fun. It's about being creative. And this is just a way that you can stretch your dies a little bit more, and using just the one die we are getting several different versions of it, and you can hardly tell that it's just the same die used. So I really like kind of figuring things out like this with my dies. I like looking at them, so go through your stash and have a look and see what you can create with the flower dies that you have or anything else. Then I have some shabby shutters and peeled paint. This is just a couple of different greens that I pulled out, and you can see I am very messily putting them down on a little piece of scrap paper, and these are going to become my leaves. Now in this little set that I have of the flower dies, they actually did have leaves, leaf dies. This is also going to be my stems, so I'm cutting just with some scissors, some not even straight, a little bit curved was what I was heading for, just a few little plain lines out so that I can do that, and then with the little scrap left over, I'm going to use a couple of these dies with these leaves. And then I'll show you a trick in just a minute how we can add a little bit more detail to those as well to make those not quite so flat also. So to do that, I'm going to gently kind of fold these in half and dip them into the ink pad so it gives them that little vein running up through the center. I'm not folding them really tightly, just enough so that I'm going to get a little bit of dimension and also that little vein. Now, I've been really enjoying this weathered wood colour from the Oxides. It's kind of like a warm-ish, greyish kind of colour. It just provides a little bit more than a plain white background. So I've been enjoying that, and you could either emboss the background and just have it kind of white on white. But as I said lately, I've been really enjoying this watercolour and the kind of the look of that watercolour light grey just in the background. So I have added a lot of water. This is a piece of watercolour paper. This is the Tim Holtz watercolour paper, which is definitely my favourite. I have dried it in between layers, and that just gives it a little bit of extra something in the background. Then I have this stamp set. This might be one of my all-time favourites. I'm not going to lie. I know I use it a lot, but I'm going to pop this on a banner die. And just because I don't want the magnets to get in the way, I'm going to add a little bit of removable adhesive. This is a favourite removable adhesive of mine too. I definitely like this one. Once I find a product that I like, I tend to really stick with it. But then I'm going to stamp the thank you with some VersaFine Onyx black ink. I'm going to trim down this front panel just a little bit. You guys know that I love having the white border of the card base behind it. I think that really improves the look of a card and gives it a nice definitive border. Then I am going to just ink up these a little bit with some finger daubers and that same weathered wood oxide ink, and again that just really makes the border stand out so much more, just having that tiny little bit of colour around the edges. And you can definitely choose how thick you want this border to be. You want it to be really, really standout, or just a little bit of a skinny border like I was doing. Once you put it on the white background, you can really notice it much, much more. But it's just a personal preference thing. I am going to pop up these flowers on a little bit of foam tape as well, and then here are my stems that I cut out using the scissors, and I'm just kind of trying to get some placement on my card. I wasn't sure how far up I wanted everything to be, so I'm just placing it all so I know that I have room for everything. And that pink one there, it kind of looks like the top one is white. That's the spun sugar petals, but it really is pink in real life, I promise you. So now I'm just adding a little bit of liquid glue onto the back of the foam tape as well, and then that means that they will not go anywhere. So once I stick down all the flower heads, I know kind of where everything is going to go, and I'm able to pop their little stems up under some of the flowers so that they can be nice and hidden. Now I know that some of my petals are popping off the edges here, but remember we made this card front, I think it's either 4 by 5 1/4 or 3 3/4 by 5. I can't remember the size that I made it, but I'll be able to tell you when we get to the card at the end. But my point is that some of the petals are hanging off the edges, but that's okay at this point because with the border that we have left that will go on the card base, there will be plenty of room, and this won't hang off the sides at all for it to go in an envelope. So I have just got some of those leaves here. I wasn't sure how many I would fit, so I'm just going to put my sentiment on first of all, and then that way I can place the leaves so that they kind of tuck out from behind the sentiment just nicely. So I have put a little bit of foam tape on the back of my sentiment as well, and you can see it's going to come just off the sides of my card front. Again, this will work out absolutely fine in the end, and this was a really fun card to make. I kind of felt like there was no pressure, and I just had a whole lot of fun creating. It didn't take a whole lot of products and things to make those gorgeous little flowers, and it was fun to just put different colors together and have a kind of nice, bright, colorful card. So if you end up being inspired by this one or creating something similar yourself, the best way for you to share those is over on our Facebook page, and then I'm able to see your creations. We have an amazing supportive group there. There are so many wonderful people. So I will leave a link to that down in my description box below. I will also link to as many products as I can find down below in the description box as well. And then other than that, I encourage you to have a look through your stash and see what you can do with what you have. Sometimes it just sort of takes to see a different idea how you can change things up and relate it to what you have in your stash. So I hope that this video and this card has helped you do that today and you have enjoyed it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section down below, and I really look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Thanks, bye!